Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special episode of Dion's Daily Dose, where I'm actually going to take the night off. I started here to introduce you, to let her get her watch party set up and everything like that. She is going to take it from here. It's her night. Gives her a chance to say what's on her mind with no interference from me. Disclaimer is already there, does not necessarily represent the views of the campaign, but her and I tend to agree on a lot.
Hi, Mary.
Thanks to everyone for coming out, and I will be starting a watch party of my own, and she's going to take it from here. Have fun.
Get out.
I'm gone.
Okay, so I'm going to start this off with some announcements that maybe could help someone. And if you know someone that these could help and they're not watching, please let them know about it. Midnight tonight, right? For registering to vote?
Yeah, that's the deadline.
If you're going to register to vote and you haven't already, you have to do it by midnight tonight. You can go to indianavoters.in.gov. I don't know how to do the fancy stuff that makes it appear on screen. So when you go there, you can click register to vote. You can click renew your vote, whatever. If it's a new registration, click register to vote, then click apply now, and then click update your registration, and then you register online and you're good to go. So if you haven't, it's super easy, super quick. That's what our oldest, Orion, used to register to vote. It took a few minutes. You need your ID number or your driver's license number, but it's super fast, super easy. Another thing, if you know of any little kids that are maybe not really understanding the whole social distancing thing or are really struggling to understand it, there's a YouTube video called Time to Come In Bear. Go to YouTube, put that in the search box. It's super cute, super sweet, and it really explains it really well to little kids or maybe any adults who are struggling to understand what's going on. Thank you. Finally, a good host. Thanks, Christopher Wells. Appreciate it. Hi, Paul. Hi, Dad. Another announcement. Tomorrow, 5/5, Dutch Farms is giving away 200,000 eggs, not to one person, but you can go to the Food Bank of Northwest Indiana, 6490 Broadway Avenue in Maryville, and you can get as many dozens of eggs as you need. It's available to anyone. And then on 5/7, they're having a drive-through mobile market from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. in Lowell. The egg giveaway is from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And you can find out more information at foodbanknwi.org/eggs for everyone. Okay, so I want to talk about something that happened. Oh, I just accidentally knocked the cat off the chair. Yesterday. It blew up. I'm kind of glad it blew up, but Mayor McDermott had what he called a drive-by birthday party for his 20-year-old son yesterday. A photo came out that was taken, that was put on MX Cartoons of a bunch, way more than what Lake County is mandating, which I think they're saying 2 or 10, way more than either 2, way more than 10, all standing at his house. So somebody took a photo of that and it went out, and I went out there because I wanted to see what's going on because I'm nosy. When I got there, there was nobody out there. There were no kids, there were no adults, there were no animals, there was no one. And I took a video of his front yard that showed the giant birthday sign. This was not something that was a small affair. It was very, very public. And I took a video of the sign. Somebody said, I think it was Joshua Huddleston, said videos were taken of kids supposedly, according to the McDermott camp, there's another video out there that shows all the kids. I haven't seen that video yet. I don't know if it exists. But the video that I took, the video that I put out there, had nobody in it. I would never, ever, ever take a video of a child and without the parents' permission and without the parents' permission to put it on social media. So I have a huge problem with him, one, saying that it was a drive-by party. It wasn't. Drive-by parties entail driving by a house. I actually watched a coworker have to have her daughter's 5th birthday party. I got to watch it on Facebook. They did a drive-by party. The girl stood in the yard and all of her guests and friends drove in their cars by her honking. That didn't happen in that photo. They were there. They were standing outside. He says they were doing that. The person who took the photo said, no, they weren't. It really comes down to who has a better track record of being honest, who has a better track record of being transparent. As far as him not wanting this to be political, he threw in Mervin's name. When, as far as I know, I'm not with Mervin's camp, and I took a video. So, I don't think that we have a situation where we have an elected official who is okay with shutting down a church, who is okay with having the police ticket children in parks and small gatherings, turn around and have his own party. He had a St. Patrick's Day party when they were supposed to be social distancing. This is a man who does not follow his own rules and does not care about his own people, his own city. What makes you think he would care about District 1? He already said he's going to be Pelosi's soldier. He already said he can't wait to get in there and start doing what she wants. He is not going to DC to represent us. He is not going to DC to represent District 1. He is going to DC to represent himself and what he can get when he's there. Josh did get really upset. I think he got really upset when he believed that there were kids in the video. I get it. There weren't any. Also, somebody took a video, it was on MX Cartoons, of Mr. I'm pro-union using non-union labor to fix his house. He also decertified labor contracts and labor agreements. He even admitted that he had big blowouts with the labor and the Hammond firefighter union and was okay with it. So how could he be pro-union and be okay with decertifying union contracts? You can be either pro-union, but you can't be pro-union but use non-union labor. There is a Republican who is pro-union, pro-labor, pro-trade, and it's Dion. The other Republican candidates are pro-right to work. Dion isn't. You don't have to vote Democrat because you think that's the only choice you have. And then Josh went ahead and deleted the whole post. He said he said that Perry unleashed his army on him.
Don't forget to put the comment on screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That way people know what's
Okay.
Just click on it.
He deleted the whole thread. He said that people were sicked on him and an army was released. No, I just did not want anyone to think that we were okay with taking videos of kids and putting them out there. Unfortunately, we now see the mayor of Crown Point endorsing McDermott. Why? There's been rumors. But for someone who was upset that Crown Point wasn't going to shut their golf courses down and try to tell a town half hour, 45 minutes away what they should be doing, now you're going to endorse them. The tentacles, I guess, run deep and run far. You see it in signs in abandoned lots. You see it in signs where there shouldn't be signs. You see it when people are reporting that the McDermott camp is going to their houses and asking them to take down their Mervyn signs and put up McDermott signs. It's disgusting. He's been mayor of Hammond for 16 years. I would love for him to tell me all the improvements he's made in Hammond to make Hammond within 16 years a far better place. Democrats have been running District 1 for 90 some years. Shouldn't District 1 be a shining beacon of Democratic pride where you want to come and you want to live? It was in the past. Hammond was, Gary was. It's not now. So you've had McDermott for 16 years and no real improvement. You've had Democrats for 90 years. And is it for the best? Is District 1 better off being under the control? And I've had people say that Democrats control District 1. Oh, well, I don't want to be okay with being controlled. I don't want one party to rule us all. They said, Mary said, not for us, but the Republicans are for the people. Look at the field. On the Democrat side, there's a lot. There's a lot. There's one candidate who told people to drink bleach, that he was okay if they died. He just tweeted today that the murder hornets, the ones from Asia that people are afraid of, they're going to kill people. How do I take the comment off? Oh, okay. On the screen or? Oh, okay. I'm still learning. That he wishes they'd swarm people who wear red, not and maggots, and basically that, we would die. How can he fairly support everyone in the district? No Democrats come out to say, we don't agree with that. We have establishments. We have Mervyn has a family that is in the political establishment. McDermott, political establishment. We have people with money. We have lawyers galore. All on the Democratic side. What do we have on the Republican side? We have Dion, regular blue-collar, former truck driver husband. We have Spencer, police officer. We have Delano, works in the jail. We have Montz, self-made businessman. There's Mark. He's a carpenter. And Bill, I don't know much about him. These are regular people. These are people like you and me. These are people that Democratic candidates used to be and Republicans used to stereotypically be the lawyers, the rich. It's switched. That's not what they're offering you for District 1 for the primary election. They're offering you money on the Democratic side and no real changes because it's the same thing every time. Or Republicans who know what it's like to be a regular person. And I agree with Mary. There are knuckleheads in both parties, but more on the Democratic side than the Republican side. I haven't heard one Republican say, I wish liberals would die. I wish people who supported Sanders or Biden drink bleach and die. I haven't heard any of that. But you hear it on the other side. You hear them in silence. They support it. What does it say? The surest way to let evil spread is for good men to do nothing. I'm not quoting that 100% right. Their silence speaks volumes. Let's see. This comment. That's my dad. When is your primary? June 2nd. June 2nd. It's coming up. It is right around the corner. It's the big push. So it's all about getting our messages out there. And I heard today that I was listening to WJOB and I actually called in. And someone made a really good point. When you vote for the lesser of two evils, you still vote for evil. That people don't vote for, and I believe this was Chuck, that people aren't voting for people, they're voting against another person. That's not right. You should be voting for the person who best represents you and what issues are important to you. Doesn't matter what their chances of winning are. Vote for the person that you want to be there in DC speaking for you. Another person on the radio show said that there's not enough candidates that talk about why they are good or what they can do, just why so-and-so stinks and you shouldn't vote for so-and-so. And I called in because I can honestly say there are a couple on the Democratic side that I have heard from day one talk about what they're about, what their platforms are. And there's a lot more that haven't. There's a lot more that just sit there and trash people. On the Republican side, and again, these are my opinions, and they are not the opinions of the Dion for Congress campaign. There are two: Dion, Spencer, Delano, Mark, and Bill. There's 5, right? 6 including Dion. 2 are non-existent, and the other ones sound a lot like each other. A lot of them sound like the stereotypical Republican platform, and that doesn't work. They don't have, there's no original ideas. You see idea from idea from idea. That they aren't saying what they're about. Paul said, let me pull up his comment. That's a lie. Several R's for D1 have done good, not bashing. Oh, I didn't mean that they were out there bashing each other. I think that the Republicans have done a really good job of sticking to policies and not, your feet smell, you're a horrible person. So I'm really proud of that because it shows that we're above that. Do you think one way to flip District 1 red, says Logan, is to attract libertarian voters to the Republican side? I think after this quarantine and the hypocrisy the left has shown will result in a surge of libertarian support for Republicans. I know that is a really hot subject. We saw how upset people got when there was that social gathering out there on that candidate's lawn. I personally have a problem knowing what the truth is because the numbers have been altered and changed, and the CDC just reduced it by 30,000 because not every death that happens now is related to COVID. I think that we see a lot of the 18-year-olds that are getting ready to vote and the 17-year-olds that are going to be voting next election feel like their rights got trampled on, feel like they got told by the government who doesn't understand what's going on, what they can and can't do, that their freedoms to say what they want, to say how they feel, have been silenced. So yeah, it's possible that they're going to say, I want little to no government in my life. So they may go over to libertarian. They may go to conservative. We're already seeing that. Gen Z, for as much as they wanted to go party on the beach of Florida, that's because they want to exercise their right to live their life how they want. They want, and I think that's why, as a mom, I think that's why we see so many of these teenagers, like, even more than when I was a teenager, in this rush to find that person, hurry up, get married, say I love you, settle down, because they're reverting to the values that once were, you pinned the girl in high school, she wore your Letterman's jacket, you graduated, you fell in love, you got married. They're more conservative. And I think that could definitely play into a push into Republican and libertarianism. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is why District 1 is so important to me. I have glitter lips gloss on and a piece of glitter. Okay. If Dion doesn't win, nobody knows who's getting the nomination. Nobody knows what's going to happen on election day. I become a voter. Even if he does win the nomination, I'm still a voter. I'm still able to go into that machine and cast a ballot for whoever I want. But if he doesn't win and I become an average voter, I need to look at who the candidates are and vote for the one that I think is going to be doing the best job for the district. But why do I care so much? I care because it is in my blood. District 1, Hammond, Lake County, it's everything I am. I grew up in Munster. I didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up in a big house. I grew up in a place called Independence Park. If anyone knows Munster, they probably don't know that, but I grew up right by the little store. and they probably know where the little store is. They called it the affordable housing area of Munster in an ad that I saw while I was looking it up. Basically, it was set aside in 1939, and then after World War II, it was designed for the housing boom, for people to come in and get their piece of land and build their house. I loved growing up there. I loved taking part in the kiddie bike parade. I loved going to Munster High School. I graduated in 98, which is a really long time ago, but I had a great childhood in Munster. In high school, I started hanging out in Hammond a lot. Had a lot of friends out there. A few years after high school, my mom and dad got divorced, and I was very lucky that I had two great parents who made a divorce impact on a child 0 to none. They did a great job. So I have all these friends who have divorced parents. They're all traumatized from it, and they're like, don't you wish your parents would have stayed together? I'm like, no, because I was taught that it had nothing to do with me and it had nothing to do with our families. And I was blessed enough to have parents that kept families, like they stayed in each other's family. And I never got what did you do with your dad? What did you do with your mom? So my parents did a great job with that. Started hanging out in Hammond, moved to Hammond, stayed out in Hammond, moved out in like the middle of 2003. So I guess I dodged the whole McDermott era when he came in. I moved out to Michigan City because I got a job offer and I was a single mom and I had to go with what was going to be best for me and my child. But Hammond's important to me because that is where my family is from. My dad and my aunts most of them went to Hammond Tech, but I think they also went to Hammond High. My grandparents started the Hammond Youth Symphony Orchestra in the 70s that I believe turned into the Northwest Indiana Youth Orchestra. I'm not 100% sure, but they were very involved in their community. They were very active in their church. My grandma was a cashier at Model Food. She was very much, I'm going to go out and make my own money. And my grandpa worked at the mill. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know where your comment is. Oh, goodness. Okay. So Hammond's very important to me. When I left, I always thought I would come back. I thought I would go start this job, make enough money, and then just commute back and forth to Michigan City. And I just didn't get to come back. I've come back since doing the job that I do. And I don't really feel like in 16 years, Hammond has really grown that much. I hear people say they're scared to go to Hammond. They're scared they'll get robbed. They're scared. And in 16 years, shouldn't that be better? I heard a video that McDermott did where he said he didn't know how to control, or it wasn't his problem, that there were so many Illinois plates at the schools. Well, in Munster, they face the same problem too, and the way they do it is proof of residency, proof of residency, proof of residency, proof of residency. If you can't prove you live in Munster, you don't get to go to the Munster schools. If you don't have a home in Munster. Now, it may be different with open enrollment, but that's how they always tackled the Illinois issue before. So why doesn't McDermott know what's going on in his own city? Why doesn't McDermott know why there's lead in the water? Why did he divert funds to start a charter school? Mary said that Hammond is home for me, grew up here. I did move out of Hammond a few times, but I always come back. I think that you see that faithful few. And my little city has grown far more in 16 years than Hammond. And yeah, that it's 16 years. What can you say that you did for this city, that you tore down Woodmore Mall and built a sports complex, that you don't want any other city to have their event, but you want to have the Festival of the Lakes, that you want Snoop Dogg to to be there, but Snoop's double booked. So, doesn't the district deserve better? Doesn't the district deserve someone who's transparent, who from day one has said, this is what I'm about? And isn't it time for a change? 90 years? We've had Democrats for 90 years. Let's try something new. Let's try a Republican and see how it works. Give it 2 years. Give it 4 years. See what happens. That's the power of the vote, is that you can vote a person out. Term limits, but also you can vote a person out. So let's give it a shot. Let's put a man in who knows what it's like to have to figure out how to make that money stretch, for food, how to figure out which bill do you pay, how to figure out how to be a real person with real problems. Because when you grow up with money, it's kind of hard to relate to a district that has real problems, and you can't relate because mom never had to count quarters for groceries, or residing in an area, like Paul said, residing there who don't want to register. You have people living in Hammond who have Illinois plates. They're not paying property tax. You're losing money. There's lead in the school water. And he says he doesn't know. That's not his problem. He violated his own rules, his own word, and had an outdoor party on his lawn. Not a drive-by. Nobody was driving. Drive-by entails driving. I want a representative who cares about my district, who cares about me, who doesn't yell every time he gets on a video, doesn't dodge, doesn't have a history of coming after Munster because they opened a road you didn't like, coming after Highland because you said the hiring practices were not fair, but you haven't been fair yourself, coming after Griffith because you didn't want them in the township because they said we don't want to play with Hammond, there's fights. So you go after all these places and think it's okay. You think it's okay, and it's not. Like Mary said, it's hard to relate when you haven't had to struggle or grow up around the gangs. I have seen gang violence firsthand. Unfortunately, we struggle, but we made do with what we had. That's true. Growing up with violence changes who you are. Tommy, he grew up in Napa, California. His dad was a mayor, but he grew up in Napa, California. They have money. He then went into the Navy, which is always thank you for your service. You remind us you were in the Navy, and we remind you that we say thank you. Now what have you done since? So he comes to Northwest Indiana after the Navy. He attends Purdue Cal, and then he goes to Notre Dame. He doesn't go to Valpo for law school. He goes where the money is. He then becomes a lawyer and becomes mayor. Of course, this isn't one right after the other. I'm sure there were years in between. Now, I have notes because this was really interesting. And I don't like doing things electronically like my husband does. I actually like writing things down. Okay. So, in 2015, he was accused of not properly itemizing over $200,000 in reimbursements for food, lodging, rental cars by the Lake County Election Board, but those charges were dismissed. But then in 2019, he was fined $50,000 for improper campaign loans from his wife's campaign. And if you ask him what it is, it's a fine for being a Democrat in a Democrat region. No, it's a fine for mismanaging campaign funds. It's not anyone attacking you. It's you made a mistake, and you got to pay back $50,000, which he then proceeds to say that he's not rich. He is rich. He makes more than most of us. This term as mayor in the 4 years, when it's all said and done, of course, if you don't spend a dime of it, he's going to make close to $500,000 in 4 years. His wife is a circuit judge. He's been mayor for 12 years before these 4 years. Yeah, you're not poor. You have money. You're rich. I bet he's never gotten that green NIPSCO bill. I bet he's never had to try to figure out how to make a holiday meal on a limited budget, or how to make Christmas magical when you still have to pay rent, or you have to pay your mortgage, and you still have to pay bills, and you don't have much left. I struggle with him having to face those struggles like so many of us did. When I lived in Hammond, before I moved out, I lived in an area that I guess had a lovely nickname called Little Waco. It was right by Hammond Tech. It was full of gangs. I lived there when I guess it was a honeymoon phase, and there weren't any problems. I loved living in Hammond. I also lived on Johnson Avenue, and over by the South Shore. And the nicest people. It was a Mexican and Polish community, and every weekend, if you went outside, you heard music, you saw people, just the nicest people that live in Hammond. And they're getting done wrong, and he wants to do us wrong. And now we have the Crown Point mayor endorsing him. Some say it's because McDermott's brother is involved, and everyone's trying to get to the right person to try to get handouts to see who's going to go to Washington. And that makes me sick. I grew up a Mill kid. I grew up a South Shore kid. I remember waiting for my mom to get off the train on the days before cell phones. So it wasn't like, oh, mom's late, because it was a delay, and she was able to call us, or we were able to get a notification. I grew up as a kid of the region. The mills are suffering now because of a decreased demand for steel. And then we have Maria say that she has a plan, or her husband said she has a plan. And I asked her husband, what's your plan? I don't know what her plan is. He didn't share it. I don't know how she's going to help the mill when it's a market issue, or how she's going to help the mill at all, because she hasn't said. Mary said that she remembers Little Waco. So she lived about a half mile from there, North Hammond, up by the old Reliable. I used to hang out there a lot when my neighborhood started getting really bad. We need change. We need a guy who is open and honest and transparent, and from day one has told you what he's going to do and what he's about. And that's Dion. We go in less than a month to go and vote in the primary. And please, if you've never voted in the primary before, I know Indiana has this rule that you have to declare a party. Vote anyway. You can, if you still don't want to vote, support your candidate that you want to get through that primary by telling everybody about them. Put their sign in the yard. Put word of mouth. If you don't want to go to that voting booth because of the rule of the primary, shout them from the rooftops. Shout them from the rooftops, even if you're gonna go vote in the primary, and then go vote in the primary and vote for the person that you want. I believe that the Republican candidates will back each other, whoever gets the nomination. I know a couple of them who have said that they're in it to take this district, take this seat to red. And I believe them. So there are good people running. I prefer Dion. You're not going to get a more honest guy. I can't get him to lie even when I need him to lie. Can't get him to lie. Can't get him to hide who he is. Real plans for District 1. We need real plans. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of candidates that aren't talking about their real plans, and Dion is, and Dion will. And if you want to know what his plans are, ask him. He's going to do more of these lives. I'm sure that he is going to talk about his plans. But vote. And then the general election, don't vote by mail. Get out there and vote. If we can go to Walmart, if we can go to Target, we can go to the voting booth. Vote for who you want. Realize that you can vote your voice. Nobody needs to know. I grew up with a dad that I thought my whole life was a Democrat because he worked at the mill, because he was in a union, because he never talked about who he voted for, because he always told me that was he'd take me to the voting booth as a kid, and I'd wait for him, and I'd be like, Dad, who'd you vote for? And as a little kid, he told me, it's none of your business. When you go into that voting booth, whether you have $1 million in the bank account or one, your vote matters just as much as the other person. Nobody needs to know who you vote for. We're all afraid to talk about who we support. A lot of us have jobs that if they found out who we supported, we could lose our job. So I get the silent majority. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to share it. You can say what my dad always said. None of your business. I voted for who I want. Go in that booth and know that all it is you and the machine, and you can vote for who you want, and nobody ever has to know. But we need a change. We need a real change in District 1. We need a real change come election time for a Hammond mayor. We need to get rid of all of these people in our House and Senate who are playing games with us. Let's just change it. Just change it. And if it doesn't work, we change it again. We are the ones who run this, not them. They work for us. We don't work for them. So let's get out there and let's vote. Like Christopher Wells says, vote, 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 vote. Tell your friends to vote. Tell your family to vote. Just get out there and vote. Mary said, what did she say? So is Liz. Yeah, I am. I'm taking a risk. In my job, not many people are Republican. I don't talk about it with the people that I work with. But, sometimes you have to have big shoulders and say what you feel. And I still don't want, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, agree with me or disagree with me, I don't wish anyone ill will. I wish the president success because he's our president and it's our country and it's going to impact us. Why would I want my president or my Congress people to fail because then I'm going to fail? So how long have I talked for? Hold on. Where's the timer? This is so confusing. Bottom right?
No, the timer is bottom left, I believe.
Bottom, I don't see it. But, I have a clock. I've talked for half an hour. I did want to say that we are getting signs. That's something that has gotten delayed and gotten delayed and gotten delayed, and finally it's happening. It's happening later, but it's finally happening. I also don't want to see a candidate who has a great solution for poverty, but I haven't heard him talk about how to prevent it. And I will say that I don't want a candidate who honestly thinks you can reformat the steel mill blast furnace by putting some solar panels on it. There is a very green candidate who believes you can fit the mills with solar panels. I don't know how that works. Offices maybe can have solar panels, but I don't know how that would work. That shows an out of touch with her own region. I am tired of being represented by millionaires. I'm tired of being represented by a candidate who forgets his past, like Frank Mervyn said, forgot his past, and it's election time. And there are people who haven't forgotten your past. And now it's time to answer for the things you did, and you can't, you won't, you don't think you need to. One last thing is I looked up. Now, not only did I have family in Hammond, I had family in Whiting. My family out there had a funeral home, had a winery. So the region is super important to me. I wanted to touch on crime, but I didn't want to touch too much because I believe our police officers do an amazing job, and I would never want it to make it look negative on the Hammond Police Department. But we don't see a decrease in crime, not in the district, not in Hammond. it should be decreasing. As a mayor, isn't that important to you? As a representative, isn't that important to you, to decrease the crime, to figure out ways to prevent crime? And I don't see a decrease. I see a lot of up and down, especially the down on election years. And I got that from citydata.org. How come crime goes down in election years and then it fluctuates or goes up every other year? We should then be, like I said, we should be a beacon of where you want to be and how you want to be. Since we've been led by Democrats for 90 years, they've had 90 years to get it right. Have they? That mayor of Hammond has had 16 years to get it right. Has he? You can answer those questions yourself. You don't have to answer them out loud. I want to see a candidate that cares about everybody. Money, no money, big business, small business. You got to ask yourself, who is that? What candidate can get on that general ticket and win against whoever it is, and win over a historically Democratic region? Can a candidate who is pro-rights work do it? Can a candidate who is anti-union do it? Can a candidate who doesn't want to respond now when everything has slowed down for the primary, because this COVID shut everything down? If they can't answer now, when there is nowhere to go, because up until today we were all sheltering in place, if they can't answer you now, when can they answer you? If you're not important to them now, when would you be? You can answer that yourself. I know who I'm voting for. I know that I'm voting. I know that this election is so important on so many levels, and I urge you to know everyone on your ballot ticket, from judges to school board to representatives to state representatives, because all these people work for you. You're their boss, and they're going to represent you. Find out who you want and who will best represent you and vote for them. So I have talked for half an hour. Paul said, or a windmill in your backyard. Here's the thing. There are no birds that fly near these windmills. Sometimes when my birds that live outside my house go off at 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I could use a windmill, but there's no birds. Are there bees? Are there insects? We have a lot of farmland. Would we deplete our farmland in Porter County and LaPorte County by putting windmills? And the arms, these huge, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the arms in real life. I've seen them as they're getting hauled on the back of trucks. They are huge. I thought it was an airplane wing. They are huge. And when they break or quit working or live out their windmill arm life, you can't do anything with them. You can't recycle them. You can't melt them down. They sit in landfills. Giant metal arms sit in landfills, and Sabrina Hake wants to put them everywhere. I guess when we have the Green New Deal, which shuts down the mills, which shuts down our district, and we all are broke, we can turn villages of windmill arms into where we will live. I guess we'll have windmill arms and windmill towns and windmill arm houses and windmill arm towns, and it'll be wonderful. She's out of touch. I don't want a representative that attacks everybody. We have one Democratic candidate that likes to go after everybody for everything. You do have millions of dollars if your properties are worth millions of dollars and you're anti-corporation, but you're a corporate lawyer and you have an iPhone. Okay. Paul said any Lake County resident can look up their ballot on the county site based off address. I think that's Lake County, Porter County, LaPorte County. You can do that. The information's out there. Figure out who these are. I have to admit, I've gone voting and looked at the ballot and go, I don't know who these people are or what this office is, so I'm going to vote for whoever's name sounds cool. I've done it. I'm not going to do it this time, but I've done it. I think District 1 deserves a real person. District 1 deserves someone who is in touch with reality. And I don't see that on the Democratic side at all. I vote Dion. Vote for someone who understands, someone who's honest, someone who's transparent, someone who has a family that if he messed with the unions or the mills, he couldn't show his face at Christmas because, it wouldn't be a good thing. But he understands the importance of unions and the importance of trade and the importance of labor and the importance of business, because they go hand in hand. He understands through my work history the shortage in home health care, especially with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and how those people who right now are working so hard to make sure people who cannot live on their own are being taken care of, that he knows that they deserve a real wage, that they deserve recognition, that they deserve to make that a career path, because you don't do it for the money. I don't do it for the money, and they certainly don't do it for the money. So you have someone who understands that career paths have to be made, someone who understands that when people get out of prison, that me and Dion met in a prison. I worked at the prison for about, 3 years, 2 years longer than him. And I met him at 3:00 in the morning at they call it the info desk. It's where you would come in and get searched before you would go to work. And he was brand new. And I was up there because you have to have a female officer and a male officer to, he can't search the females. I can search the males. So they usually like to have female, female, male, male. I was just talking to him, asking him, oh, hey, how do you like work? Are you married? He wasn't at the time. I let out this laugh, which if you know him now, it's just his that's absurd laugh. And I was exhausted. I was okay, I'm going to go in the back. And if a girl shows up, call me. But oh my goodness, this guy, became friends with him, saw that he wasn't that bad of a guy. He was actually a really, really nice guy. Not a fedora wearing nice guy. He was actually a Southern gentleman, and we became friends, and then it grew, and then I don't know, next thing I know, I'm engaged, and I don't know how it happened, but it happened. So I can tell you that this is someone who, you want a pro-life candidate, you got a pro-life candidate. We had a cat. Let me tell you how pro-life this guy is. We had a cat. We got it for my son's birthday, and the cat kept getting fat. And we thought there was something wrong with it because it was really swollen. So we take it to Purdue Emergency Vet Hospital. And we say, we have this cat, and all of a sudden she's swollen. We think something's wrong with her. And they look at us like we're insane. And they do a little touchy-feely exam, and they go, she's pregnant, and she's about to have babies any day now. And we, of course, were caught off guard because we had no idea this cat was about to have kittens, and we weren't ready for kittens. And they just looked at us point blank and said, well, we can fix her. And Dion's like, well, it's too late. She's already pregnant. You can't fix her when she's pregnant. And they're like, oh, no, we can fix her. We'll just get rid of the kittens. And the look on his face was just sheer horror at what they were saying. And he's like an abortion? And they're like, yeah, we'll just get rid of him. He goes, she can't, no, I can't agree to this. I'm pro-life. It's all life. It's little kittens. It's animals. It's children. We have seen, he's been kind of brought into my industry just because spouses tend to kind of get drug along. Every life matters. Every life matters. Every life deserves to be protected. And he believes that. He'll protect unborn kittens. He protects unborn life. He believes in all constitutional rights. Second Amendment, we've had debates upon debates upon debates about, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? He doesn't waver. You want to make sure your freedom of religion, your freedom of speech, your freedom to assemble, every right, and he's a better constitutionalist than I am. You want to make sure that your rights are going to be protected. It's him. He wants to make sure when the Second Amendment goes, every other amendment goes. And he wants to make sure that your Second Amendment is protected. Mary says, yes, life begins at conception. I am very pro-life. I believe life begins at implementation, which is just a 72-hour difference. So it's not really. And I've seen people who, the argument, well, would you want your child to go to foster care? So your child doesn't deserve life because they might end up in something bad. But I have worked with individuals who I have actually heard people say, if my child ended up like that, I would just have an abortion. I had one client, he couldn't talk, he couldn't move, and people were like, they looked at him and they said, if my child ended up like that, if I knew my child's gonna end up like that, I'd just have an abortion. But they didn't know that beneath all his limitations, there was a soul and a sense of humor and a heart, and just this is temporary. This isn't us. What's inside is us. And we all have limitations. Paul said, even for our look, I disagree. Dion and I both disagree with what he says and what he believes, and that he believes that people should die. I'm not gonna be mad at him because something must have happened in his life, in his heart, in his mind, to have that inside of him. Something to look at someone and say, you should die because you disagree with me, is something inside of him that I would never want inside of me. I mean, we've all had road rage, we're like, oh, I wish, but not mean it. He means it. And I don't know what happened. I don't know who hurt him or what hurt him. And all I can say is, I'm sorry. And I hope it gets better. I know he's miserable living in Newton County. He lives outside the district. Newton County, I guess you could consider Northwest Indiana. It's very different. But he hates Newton County and everyone who lives in it. Dude, move. I don't know what else to say, but I'm sorry that he has that inside of him. And I'll be praying for him. And I'll pray that whatever's inside of him gets better. And I did post his American Idol audition tapes. It was in a moment of anger that I was being told, and my child was being told, and my dad was being told that we should basically go off and die. I've heard his music, and to me it lacks heart and emotion. So that means that, I don't know what it's like not to have heart and emotion and sing a love song and not be able to emote love. I'm sorry. I'll pray for you. And, he wants change too. We all want the core things. We just have different ways of going about it, like Dion says. Dave Iron says he's your pal. Well, give him a hug. When this is over with, I think he needs a hug, maybe a cup of coffee, and maybe someone to talk to, because I think he's hurting inside and he's lashing out. He said in one of his most recent tweets is that we should abolish money and just take care of each other. That would be great. That would be great. To just be able to rely on each other like a barter and trade system like in the olden days. I'm just sorry he's miserable, and I wish him the best. I wish everybody that's running the best, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. We're going to see who's sore losers, so who's a sore winner, who's willing to break the rules with where they put their signs. If you want a sign, let us know. We will get a sign out to you when they come in. And, oh, Dave Iron, that's a joke. He attacked me for no reason. I thought so, but, you never can tell anymore these days. He attacks everyone. And when someone's willing to hurt people that they don't know for no reason, that means that inside it must be a pretty dark place. And to carry around anger like that with you, I've been there, and it sucks. It really does, to just be mad about everything and everyone and miserable every day. It sucks. Mary put a big comment up. She said, exactly, my sister Liz, great name, was born with a cleft lip and palate. She had multiple surgeries over the years. She's a Shriner's kid. She doesn't look like she was born with a cleft lip and palate. She was adopted. She came out with this after she was born. We adopted her when over a year ago. Her bio parents chose life. That's awesome. And that's one thing. You can be pregnant and not have to take a baby home with you. You can be pregnant and you can pick a family. You could even go completely left field and pick a non-traditional family. You can pick a family that's willing to help you pay for your living expenses, because there are families that are willing to do that. You can give birth and do a close adoption and never want to see your kid again ever in your life. I don't understand how you can say that's not a good option. That's not a good choice. It's my body, my choice. And you're right. It is your body, your choice, when it's only your body. When you have life, there was actually a documentary that showed how they can tell when you have IVF, which eggs are the ones to implant and which ones aren't, which ones are stronger and more viable than the others. Because at the moment of connection, there's a spark of light, some stronger than the other, and then almost immediately cells begin dividing. That's life. Like, you're seeing it right in front of that spark is something. They're saying that babies can feel pain as early as I want to say less than 8 weeks, but pretty early. Women don't even find out they're pregnant traditionally, normally, until they're 4 weeks. That's why you're technically pregnant for 10 months and not 9. So by the time you know you're pregnant, your baby is developing. Your body, your choice, until there's another body in it. The argument, a baby can't live outside that environment. I can't live outside my environment. If you took me outside of Earth, I'm going to die. If you took a newborn baby, put it in its crib, and then just left it alone, it's going to die. If I just took off on my kids at 17 and 14 and never came back, they probably wouldn't make it. Probably be Lord of the Flies. But, if they were younger, they wouldn't know how to fend for themselves and they would die. Hold on. I got an interesting comment. This is Trump's unpleasant thing. But you're okay with color kids in cages, right, Nazi? Well, I take exception to the Nazi thing just because my maiden name is German. I'm not a Nazi, and actually, Nazis are socialists. It was a real good socialist party. So I'm not a socialist, so I'm really not a Nazi. I am not okay with kids in cages. Sometimes kids want to get in cages for photos. It's weird. I'm not okay with it. However, all those photos of all those kids in cages, they were taken during the Obama administration. So no, I'm not okay with anybody in a cage. I especially am not okay with that because I worked at DOC. I worked in DOC for almost 6 years. And the worst moment of that whole career where I felt like we both are being dehumanized was when privatization happened and Aramark came in. And when Aramark came in, I ran protective custody unit for a few years. They would send up spoiled milk. They would send up and spoiled to where there was a whole flight of stairs from when they got it at the bottom that they had to take it up before I let them back into the unit. I could smell the spoiled milk from at the bottom of the stairs. And when I would call to complain to the kitchen about moldy food, about spoiled milk, they acted like I was insane. Like, why not give it to them? Because they're still people. One time they handed out meat. And the meat had mold on it. It had red mold. I've never seen red mold ever in my life. I've never seen it since. I've never seen it on food. So they brought food back for all the guys that had moldy meat. I was expecting them to be sandwiches like they were supposed to be. No, they sent out a big bin of meat and wanted us to go from cell to cell with these guys locked in their cells because it was time to go in and lock down. They go in at night, they lock down. I was working on night shift, and give them a piece of meat from my hand through the bars. That was like one of the worst feelings I've ever had. Looking at 200 guys' eyes and just seeing heartbreak on their side and them seeing heartbreak on my side, because I'm like, they're going to blame us, blame the officers. When that Aramark food worker came in, the whole cell house turned and started screaming at him and told him he better leave before they get him. So I've seen people in cages. Stop lying. Pence was walking in front of the cages. That's new. I haven't seen that. I do know that one of the pictures of cages was done with a child doing a school art exhibit. Then I suggest you run and change things. If you see, this is why Dion ran, this is why the idea has gone in my mind, why not me run for something local? If you see an injustice, if you see something wrong, do something, change it, run, get a job, petition Congress. Don't just sit here and bash people and call people names. I challenge you, Mr. Trump's a bitch. Do something. Make a difference. Make a change. So you're saying there's no people in cages right now. If you're an honest person, you admit there are. Are like we talking about like worldwide? See, I gotta not feed the troll. I will show his comment real quick. I do know that human trafficking and child trafficking is a huge issue. So I'm sure, unfortunately, somewhere there's people in cages. Again, I challenge you to change something. This girl's asking me to speak for America. So as an American, vote different, make a change. Dave Iron said, I always love how keyboard warriors are afraid to use their name. I mean, if you are man enough to type the comment, if you're big enough to type the comment, do something to make a difference. That's what gets me with people who want to protest, but then they don't want to do anything. So, I've talked for over an hour. So, this will probably be the last time you see my face on a live. It was fun. I hope everyone goes out and votes. I would love to talk to y'all in the general promoting Dion, but I will be supporting the party if it's the person elected that I feel is best. There's just one person I would really struggle supporting, and that's my business. So if you need a sign, let us know. But get out there and vote in the primary, get out there and vote in the general, get to know the candidates, get to know the issues and what is important to you. If stopping caging people is important to you, figure out who's going to help you get there and vote for them. So that is it. Thank you. I know I'm just going to say bye. I don't have a cute little catchphrase or a slogan. So just bye, everyone. Done, I think.